Hey guys, you may have noticed that I did not post a recap for Lost Episode 6, Sundown. I could take a minute or two to try to explain why, but the truth is I was sick and completely unmotivated to make a recap. Mostly because that episode was kinda, depressing. It had some good action, but all it really did was finalize my dislike for Sayid. I'm really ready for the producers to just kill Sayid off altogether, because, he had so many chances to redeem himself, and I haven't been a fan of Sayid since he went all gunslinger in Season 4. I did, however, love the end sequence of that episode, just because it was so cool the way that they shot it. Everything was in slow-mo, and they were able to say so much without speaking an actual line of dialogue in that scene. They just had all these stern facial expressions, kind of walking around in this dreamlike sequence with that creepy lullaby music playing. I absolutely love the way that looked. It was a very dark scene, and it's one of those scenes where the tension and the issue is so high that we're at the point where we're wondering how are the good guys going to come out of this situation. So I really liked the ending of the episode. Though I am pissed off that Dogen was killed off. I was actually beginning to really, really like him. I liked him from the start because he was, Kung Fu Master, but I was really starting to get interested in his story, and then they killed him off. Claire was a bit scary. Well, no, she was way scary in this episode, and it was kind of interesting to see Kimi again. Jin somehow got from airport security to Kimi's freezer. Sayid's brother married Nadia, which I kind of find funny because in both timelines, Sayid is unhappy, and it's mostly due to the fact that he's a trigger-happy psycho. So I am no longer interested in whether or not Sayid ends up happily ever after with Nadia. And I know that sounds cold, but after that episode, I have been seriously considering making a hate group for Sayid on Facebook. Maybe I can make it like a Sayid and Kate hate group. Since Kate apparently is joined up with Unlock now. Has Kate turned to the dark side? So there were just some of my thoughts about the episode. I know it's not a full recap, and I apologize. But for the rest of this episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off some of the comments I received in my last recap, where I asked you to list off some of your most outrageous theories that you could possibly think of or have ever heard of that are related to Lost. And I got some pretty good ones. CDS0325 says, I got a crazy theory to answer everything that happened on the show. Hurley wakes up and it was all a dream. I hope that never happens. Yams02 says that their theory is Vincent is going to be the new leader. I could see that working. Chris25821 says his theory is the island eats everyone. Pete Stole My Heart 10 says, I saw one that said David is the man in black. Also that Ben's childhood friend Annie is Wallace, which was listed as number 108 on Jacob's dial. Those aren't really crazy per se. Wrong maybe, but not crazy. Ishida Souken says, the man in black can claim dead people unless they are properly buried and make them evil and kinda undead. For instance, Christian Shepherd, Claire, who died in the explosion, Sayid, and John Locke. Obviously, Season 4 and 5 are only a giant elaborate plan for the Man in Black to exploit his loophole, telling John to move the island, which resulted in the candidates leaving. He knew they'd come back, however, Ben moved the island, not John, so the Man in Black tortured the group until John moved the island. The whole purpose of the island and of Jacob is to keep the Man in Black from ever leaving this prison, because when he leaves, he could potentially kill everyone, being a threat to mankind itself. They found or created this island and used it because of its special properties, which makes it very hard to find or to leave. So if the candidates were really to replace Jacob, it makes perfect sense. There is something to protect on this island, and that is humanity itself. One of my kind of sort of theories was that the island is actually containing the apocalypse itself. There is some sort of force on the island that is preventing people from reproducing. And I think the island might be containing whatever force that is, whether it be the Man in Black or something else, because if that affected the entire planet, eventually mankind would get wiped out. And I got one more theory in a personal message from Running Fox 83. It is an amazing theory. It has some stuff that was kind of really out there, but it was such an enjoyable theory for me to read. I'm going to try to share it with you. It's an extremely long theory, so parts of it I'm going to read directly, and parts of it I'm going to summarize. So this theory is from Running Fox 83. Whatever your beliefs, religion is key to any civilization. With that in mind, we should kick off this theory by asking the question, what is the island? Well, first of all, to try and answer this scientifically would be impossible, not to mention stupid. However, the island's purpose can be summed up with this simple analogy. Imagine the world as a supercomputer, and the island functions as the world's portable hard drive. Its purpose is to store important information or files should anything happen to the world. Meaning, if the world were to end tomorrow, the island would remain safely intact with all relevant information, law, religion, etc., required to start over. So essentially the island contains everything important that every religion and civilization has ever learned and contains this into one place in case the apocalypse should happen. However, depending on who controls the island at the time, that person would have a choice. They could either choose to start again using the information contained in those files, thus ensuring that thousands of years of progress are not lost, or they could choose to start a new civilization with their own laws, maybe even their own religion, one in which they are God. Now, both Jacob and the Man in Black are aware of this end-of-the-world scenario, and part of what we are seeing on the show is a battle for control of the island in preparation for the end of the world. And essentially, he breaks it down that there are three sides to this war that the show has been referring to. There's Jacob's side, the Man in Black's side, and sort of like a neutral side. Later in the theory, it states that Jacob is Aaron, who has time traveled and has been granted immortality in order to perform a great task. His goal is to prevent the self-destruction of all human life on this earth from nuclear annihilation. He is aware of this great doom via a numerical calculation known as the Valenzetti equation, or the numbers, discovered in the early 60s by scientists who later became the Dharma Initiative. His task is to change the core numerical value and thus prevent the outcome, i.e. the end of the world, but to do this he must go back to the very beginning of civilization to set his task in motion, weaving a very intricate thread which involves bringing people to the island. Later he goes into the Man in Black and the Others, stating that both the Others and Smokey are from a place called home, a dimension that exists parallel to our own. They arrived on the island in the distant past during a trans-dimensional shift, when a volcanic eruption, fused with the island's mysterious properties, tore a hole in both dimensions and caused them to bleed into each other. Originally, Smokey was designed as a kind of mobile police unit, its purpose to uphold the law as it is on home. It works via a simple scanning process, followed by a prompt arrest should any crime be detected. On home, there are many of them, all programmed with the same purpose, but when one of them inadvertently spilled onto the island during the shift, the mysterious properties found deep underground intermingled with the alien technology and gave it a life of its own. So essentially, Smokey is an extremely advanced piece of technology used to replace police officers in another dimension. So essentially, several of the others used to follow Smokey, and Smokey was trying to get them to create a machine that would take them back to their original dimension, home. The machine that they were working on was the frozen donkey wheel, and when that didn't work, Smokey had them seal the wheel off and start to work on a different machine. But that's when people started showing up on the island. Jacob starts bringing people to the island, which angers the Man in Black. He soon begins to develop a distaste for the human race and their corrupt nature. So the Man in Black finally meets Jacob, and that's when their rivalry begins. Jacob keeps his plan secret, so the Man in Black only thinks that Jacob wants to convince him that humans are good. The Man in Black's ultimate goal is to return home. He is secretly hatching a plan to eliminate Jacob by manipulating the very people he keeps bringing to the island. But, unknown to the Man in Black, Jacob has a plan of his own. A plan that begins with his own death. And this is about where we're up to. Where we go from there is anyone's guess. So that's it for this video, guys. I want to apologize for the delays and thank you for your patience. I will be making a normal recap of Dr. Linus, which should be up later this week. So until then, I'll see you guys later.